It's 2 o'clock on Dayton Saturday. The regular crowd shuffles in. A bunch of old men and a few YLs waiting for the contest forum to begin. That's it. There's no more. I'm not. No. I figured the Spurs are a pretty easy act to follow, except for Nancy, because she's unbelievable. All right, as some of you may have noticed, we just turned the lights off on that side of the room, so if you can't see the stuff over here very well on that side because it's too light, then this is your chance to move over there. Or not, I don't care, it's up to you. All right, so I think we'll get started because even though the program says there are 4 speakers today, somewhere along the way a 5th one got stuck in the middle. So we have 4 really good talks and 1 not so great one. And you can see what the not so great one is mine, just so you know. You can see the list of the speakers here, so I'm not going to waste any more time standing up here myself, and I'm going to give you, if I close this, and I should be able to open this one. That looks pretty good. Oh, no, this one. There we go. Our first speakers, Higgins, W2RE, Rockwell, Schrock, WW1X, talking about taking remote contesting to the next level.
Okay, how you doing? I'm Ray, W2RE. How's the audio? Good? Okay. So, I'm going to talk about taking remote contesting to the next level. So as you know, we build contest stations remote, and recently in 2019 we built W1 Jonesport. Sits on the coast of Maine. And I'm going to talk about the hardware piece, and then Rockwell's going to come up here and talk about the software piece and how we operate in the cloud. So taking remote contesting to the next level, how to build a world-class remote station with a cloud-based contesting software. Why we build remote contest stations. Number 1 reason is eliminate the QRN. As you know, there's a lot of QRN in some of these rural areas or in city, so we want to avoid the QRN. Better QTH adds dB. dB's good. Propagational advantage, that's why we build on the coast of Maine. Eliminate zoning regulations. You know, there's a lot of places in the U.S. where there's no tower zoning, so you try to find those towns. No neighbors. No neighbors is good neighbors. And keep the spouse happy. That's really the number 1 reason. She doesn't want to see those towers in the backyard. So how do we do it? We pick a location to build. We like ocean fronts and we like mountaintops. First thing we do is we go to Zillow to find the area that we want to build, and then we look for ham-friendly towns. I personally have alerts from Zillow when a property is listed on one of these towns that I know is ham-friendly. And the way you find out if a town is ham-friendly, almost all the towns in the U.S. have a government website with the zoning regulations. So as Fred Hopengarden would say, do your homework. You want to go on here and make sure that the town's going to allow you to do what you want to do. So you can do your homework before you do it. Use Google Earth, number 1 tool. So that once you find that town, Google Earth is a good tool to find out, you know, is this location going to work? You always want to have a good slope to Europe, right? How much land is enough? Personally, I don't start with 20 acres or more, because you want to put up that 4 square on 80 and that 4 square on 160, you need 20 acres. Okay, We buy land that's cleared. I see this mistake all the time. Somebody will buy a nice piece of land, but they have to clear it. It costs a lot of money to clear land. You don't want to do that. You know, blueberry fields in Maine are pretty cheap. Before we dig, building permit. Must be in hand. Don't dig that hole until you have that building permit. Here I am with the building permit in Jonesport. I just got permission for 6 towers up to 200 feet. That was a happy day. It only cost me 145 bucks. This is the layout of the property. It's about 1,200 by 1,200. It sits on the Atlantic Ocean, and you can see it's mostly cleared. It's a blueberry field. It's the highest point on the peninsula. This peninsula sits out into the Atlantic. We're kind of in the middle of the peninsula. In all directions, pretty much shoot over salt water except to the north. So it's a really good location. Now, when you buy the land, you don't necessarily have to have a house. That's not a requirement. You can pick up these shipping containers as shown in this photo for $2,000 to $4,000 delivered to the property. They're great. I mean, they're cheap, inexpensive, and you can get them delivered. These are the shipping containers that come out of China that we don't ship back. We also use 10 by 10 sheds. You can get them, you know, priced anywhere from $1,000 to $2,000 delivered to the site as well. And in Summit, New York, where I have my vacation home, I just went a little bit upscale, and I just had a $12,000 cabin delivered, which could make a really nice shack as well if you want to go there and operate. And I'll show you a photo of that in a moment. So here's a typical building that we'll put at a site. You'll see that we have a generator, we have the building, we have our propane tanks as backup in case we lose power. This is a regular steel cargo container. This is 8 by 20, sits beneath the tower. Cargo containers. Here's one of the good things about the shipping cargo tips. They're great RF shield. In the photo, you'll see the electric is run in, 60 amp service in the building. We ground all the equipment to the body of the cargo container. And then, of course, we have ground rods. We do the proper lighting with bulkheads and etc. Makes for a great steel cage RF field. So here's the cabin I was just talking about. This is a 14 by 32 cabin. I just have it delivered to my property in April. This is up in the Catskill Mountains. And the reason I had this cabin delivered, the radio equipment used to be inside the house, but now I got this property on Airbnb, and somebody's actually in there right now as we speak. We moved the equipment into the building there, and for $12,000, a really nice building. And so you can make this into your shack if you really want to at the remote site. So inside the buildings, here's 2 Flex 6600 PGXLs. We use exclusively Flex equipment because they're really good for remote. Flex radio is easy to remote and excellent equipment. We use solid state amplifiers. Tube amplifiers don't work well in a remote situation. We're moving over to all PGXLs. Everything has to be automated, so we exclusively use Green Heron products. Jeff makes really good stuff. The buildings are watertight, temperature controlled with security cameras. Remote site, you're going to want security cameras. So tower construction. So I own 2 tower companies, co-owners, Hudson Valley Towers and Radio Echo Communications. So we build them under either one of those companies. We do basically we do a turnkey operation. We typically do our excavation ourselves. We do the rebar cages. Basically we build turn remote stations for others if interested. So here's a quick overview of the Jonesport station. It's one of the flagship stations that we own. We own multiple stations. We broke ground in September 2019 and built a world-class station in 6 weeks. Here's the steps that we took to get to this point. So here's my son Bobby. He's not here with us. He's KC2UPN. He works with me in radio echo communications and the other businesses that we own. So here he is with a special tool to get, I always forget the name of this tool, but anyway, it's called a transit. So the placement of the towers, when you buy the land, you really want to map out where you're going to put these towers. You want to make sure you have the right spacing. You don't want them on top of each other. You want 4 squares. You want to make sure you get it all laid out right. So the way we do it is, you know, we'll do it on Google Earth and map it out, and then we'll do it while we're there, and we'll put stakes in the ground and use the special tools with the measuring wheel and the transit to get it just right. Especially with rotating towers, you want to make sure you get it all right. Here's my son on the excavation. He excavates with the bulldozer, with the backhoe. Concrete work, we use the proper PSI. Here's one of the sites. We trench all the way back to the house in this situation. This is our Eastport station, which has a house. Concrete work is pretty straightforward. You all know that. Here's us forming out the top. Here's the concrete prepared with the round sections ready to go. Tower construction and antenna building. At this particular site, we use GXP antennas. They come out of Poland in M-square antennas. If you never heard about GXP, they're out of Poland, really good antennas. Highly recommend them. Here's how they get shipped in these big orange containers. Really good antennas. Really good. And here's my son. This is how we do it. We lay everything out. All the aluminum's laid out, and he goes to work. Another photo of him with the antennas. So tower material. We use Roan 45 and 55 at this site. We have a trucking company in Maine where we have everything delivered. DX Engineering sends this stuff for us. If I remember correctly, it's $199, and you can buy as many sections as you want. That's the delivery cost, or at least it used to be. We also use the DX Engineering 80-meter 4 squares. They work really well for us. And we trans everything in a 16-foot cargo container. So the K0XG stuff, we put in the back of the pickup from the transport operation, and we bring it to the site. In this particular case, it's about an hour away. That's how we get the K0XG base on the base on the concrete base. So I don't know if many know that you can build about 150 feet of Roan 55 and get it picked up in one shot with a crane if you have the room. So here's 150 feet ready to go. So on crane day, the construction prior to crane day is typically just 2 men. You don't need a whole crew to get everything ready and prepared. The day of crane, we have a minimum of 3 men on the ground and 1 on the tower. You want a guy in each guy wire. And cranes can range from 300 to 500 an hour, so you want to have extra help on crane day. We do our own climbing, and we always hire professionals. Here's a couple crane photos. So here's the view from a drone. As you can see, that's the Atlantic. This is like a southeast shot. There's the GXP antennas on a rotating tower. Here's a 4-element 40 with another nice shot. This is a K0XG base. So we have 4 stations in Jonesport. There's no centralized operation, meaning that there's no one station where everything is put into one operating position. Each station is connected through the web browser, which eliminates additional hardware, cabling, and complicated switching and contesting. Rockwell is going to speak about that in a moment. All the buildings are beneath the towers or nearby within 100 feet. Well, what does that mean? No need for long coax. Shorter coax, no loss. 4-flex radios and 4-flex PGXLs is essentially 8 radios. You can do single op, two radio operations from one flex 6600 or 6700. So that's something we're exploring now, so we can start doing more multi contesting. We got to get that right in the cloud. The new multi categories in WPX Distributed and Explorer allow us to use this new technology. I thank CQ for allowing this new category, because this is great. We can, push the envelope a little bit. So I'm going to just go over the details real quick. How are we doing, Doug? It's 15 minutes right now? Okay, I'm just going to quickly go through this. So here's the W1 Jonesport station, station number 1. This is the stacks. This is Jonesport number 2. This has our 15-meter stacks. This is Jonesport number 3. This is our 20-meter stacks. This is Jonesport number 4. This has our 7-element stacks and 164 square off of it. And now it's Rock's turn. Thank you very much.
All right, hi, I'm Rockwell, WW1X, Rock on the air because it's only one syllable and it's easier to pronounce. I'm going to talk a little bit about the software integration piece. I've written all of the software, front end, back end stuff for remote ham radio, and we've done a lot of extra special work to get this station and others ready and supported multi distributed contesting. The biggest, most important thing when you're maintaining a fleet of stations across the whole country and the world is that the hardware has to be the same. We standardize on everything, as Ray mentioned, flexes, PGXLs, green heron rotors, relays. We try to keep the variety of the hardware as minimal as possible because it's just fewer things you have to support. You know the intricacies, you know the ins and the outs, you know the failure modes. So we try to standardize and have a sort of cookie cutter solution for all of our stations. The heart of this is the Raspberry Pi, actually. We run all of our remote control through the Raspberry Pi. We manage a fleet of 47 of them right now. Whenever we go to set up a station, we'll pre-configure it, load it up with our software. All the station owner has to do is you just plug it in, it shows up on our network, and then we can configure everything remotely. It's set up on a VPN, so you don't have to worry about opening any ports or anything like that. We just always have access no matter what the network situation is at the remote site. Whether it's, DSL or cable or fiber, or some of these are even on cell sites as well, using like cell data plans. And the beauty of this is that we use some software to do one-click deployments, make some changes, do some bug fixes, press enter, suddenly all of them are updated all at once. In general, there's lots of serial devices. In general, we try to prefer using network-attached devices. They allow you to put things in different, serial devices have to be connected to the Pi. Everything has to be co-located. But if you're on a network connection, you can put the amp over here and the radio over here. You can put things in totally separate physical locations. As long as you have a network connection between them, it allows you to really isolate and put components where you need them, wherever you have power, where you have physical space. So we really do prefer network devices whenever possible. Here's a very, very high-level overview of the infrastructure of RHR. On the left side, we've got our stations running the Raspberry Pis. On the right side, your browser, your Mac, your laptop, your phone. And then the middle is where is the cloud, basically. I should have drawn like a little cloud icon there, like every other diagram. What we have there is a set of load balanced clustered servers, which means that they're redundant. So if there's ever a failure, it'll automatically fail over to the other one. And we can scale them up as we need be. So like during a contest weekend, if it's very, very busy, we can actually just add more servers on the fly to support that extra load. So they're super redundant, and they're in central locations so that latency is minimized for everyone else who's operating. Now the console itself, if you haven't seen it, here's a quick little overview. We did a lot of work in the console to support contesting. The number one thing being adding a DX cluster to the band scope. So, showing mults, new stations you've already worked. You can hide them, and you can get those right there in the beautiful Flex pan adapter. We've also got the integrated logbook, of course. You need that for a contest, and I'll talk about a little bit more about that in a minute. The beauty of having this type of setup when you're operating remotely is that you're on your own computer, you're using your own headset, you're using your own setup, you can use your own tools, and you can set it up exactly how you like it. Not only do you not have to travel to the remote station to do the contest, but you can operate in an environment that you're familiar with, that you've tested, and are very comfortable with working. And of course, the number one thing that was most important for enabling these multi operations is to make it as easy as possible for people to get on. We don't have to worry about installing software, we don't have to open any ports, we don't have to, everything's already done. All you need is a login to a website and you're there. So for people of all ages and experience levels and generations who have never used this before, getting everyone into the system is like the biggest hurdle, and by making it as easy as possible, that really enabled us to, have anyone from all over operate these multi contests. So the logger itself, we had to add a couple of special features. In particular, we did this for the WPX sideband contest. Like I mentioned, no software to install. The log itself is in the cloud, so it's shared and distributed amongst everyone. You can see exactly where everyone is operating, what's being logged in real time. You can also even see where all your other transceivers are located. So if you're doing, search and pounce, running in mult, you can see where guys are. You can see who's transmitting. There's a distributed lockout. So for multi, we have a lockout that will prevent you from transmitting. And again, that's all done remotely. Yada, 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 a bunch of logger features, CW, macros, ESM, supercheck partial. Again, all integrated. Oh, and the most important feature, we got the mult bell. Outside of the console, we also use a couple third-party tools to help, collaborate with people. We use Slack for chat and video. So before the contest, during the contest, after the contest, we get everyone into a big chat room. We can answer questions, we can collaborate, we can hand off, we can cheerlead, and then at the end we can do a little retrospective. Google Sheets, W4IPC, one of our youth members actually made this awesome spreadsheet so that we can, collaborate time on, time off, who's on what station where. And then Google Docs we also use for retrospective, so we collect feedback from the operators, things we can improve, what worked, what didn't, and so on. And that's it for me. So I got the 2-minute warning. Thank you very much.
Okay, I'm sure both Ray and Rock will be available in the suite tonight if you have any questions about why they would be so crazy as to build a station in Maine. That's insanity. No one should do that. Okay, let's close this one. Let's go down to here. Let's do that, and we'll do that. Okay, our next speaker is the director of several of the digital contests, mostly the ready ones, but also he got sucked into, he volunteered to be the director of the WW Digi contest, and it got interesting when the logs all came in, so I'll let Ed Muns, W0YK, talk about the funny thing about checking Digi logs.
Well, the first funny thing is that what I'm going to talk about today applies to all modes. It's just that we rediscovered what we've known for many decades in the classic modes. And it all boils down to a computer science theorem that was developed back in 1978. So the computer science people here probably know about the two generals paradox. But I made this presentation prior to February 24th, I think it was, and all of a sudden I didn't feel real comfortable with that. So we're going to change the analogy to gangsters. So I researched that a little bit, and it turns out this theorem was actually developed 3 years earlier in 1975, and if you drill down in the paper that was written for it, they used gangsters as the model instead of, so I was really happy I'm using the original analogy for this talk. Okay, I gotta remember the button is here. So let's start with some data. Nothing like screwing up a good argument with data. This is the log checking statistics from all three CQ Worldwide contests. So this is CW Sideband and RTTY from the year 2019. I picked that year because that's the first year we did the WW Digi contest. And even though it's WW Digi, it's not sponsored by CQ, it's sponsored by WWROF. That's a confusion point sometimes with people. But they're all lined up between August, September, October, November to kick off the contesting season. So you'll see here, these are the three main log checking statistics that we look for in terms of the errors that are generated across the log set. And so here on the far left is busted calls, the middle is busted exchanges, and then on the far right is nils. For those of you that don't know what that is, that's not in logs, so that's when your QSO partner may have the QSO in their log, but it's not in your log, so they get a penalty because it's not in both logs. And you'll see for worldwide, across all three modes, there's about a 1% error rate in busted calls, and this has been pretty steady over many years. But the busted exchange is pretty low. Well, why is that? Well, it's because it comes from the call prefix. You actually don't have to work too hard in contesting to get that. And then there are the nils, which is running about the same rate as the busted calls. So if you compare that to a contest like WPX, what I've done here is I've overlaid it for the year 2019, those same three modes in the WPX contest, and these little red lines here are where the bars would be for WPX. And you see the significant differences here in the middle for the exchanges. And why is there more busted exchanges? Because there's an actual exchange. There's a serial number that's unique. So that's, you know, kind of expected. Okay, well, what happened when we ran the WW Digi contest in August of 2019? Well, we got this. Almost no busted calls. There were more busted exchanges than I would have expected, but it's still pretty low. But what's happening over here with the nils? That's really off the charts. So, did we get any better? Actually, after 2019, and we saw this, Joe Taylor and I, his team, and the WWRF team, WW Digi team, wrote a paper and published it and tried to explain to people why we thought this was happening and how they could change their operating behavior to drive this down to where the classic modes are and what we've done for the last 6 decades. So did that work? Well, we got a little improvement. It came down a little bit in 2020, but in 2021 it popped back up again. So basically, no one's reading our paper, and it turns out, I think where the problem's coming from is that the people that would read the paper are behaving one way, and the people that don't read the paper are behaving another way. So that's kind of a hint as to where I think we ended up. So kind of the summary of this is that the baseline nil rate for what I call the classic modes is between 1% and 2%, and it's very steady over time. But for the FT8 and FT4 modes, it's running 5 to 6%. So that's pretty significant. And the question is, what's the 4%? Well, it's because you and your QSO partner 5 to 6% of the time are not agreeing on whether the QSO was good, and one of you is not logging it. So what's the difference? Well, as we've already pointed out, For FT8 and FT4, you'd expect the calls and the exchanges to be perfect, because you don't get anything printed on the screen unless they're perfect because of the error correcting. That's one of the benefits of the mode. But for nils, the operator is involved because they can make a choice about whether they're going to log the contact or not. And there's something going on in WSJTX software that really aggravates this situation. So in the classic modes, after decades of practice, we've driven the nil rate down to between 1% and 2%, and it has to do with the behavior that we do as contesters, as operators. We've learned how to get the nil rate down. We can't get it down much lower than that because stuff happens, right? I remember when I started doing RTTY contesting, I had a very high nil rate, and I couldn't figure out what was going on, and eventually I realized that it was the way I was typing into my logger. So I'd make contact, and I was still fumbling around trying to learn the RTTY mode, and I'd work the next QSO, and I'd type it in right on top of the one I just did. So I effectively just erased out of my log the QSO that I had just previously made, and I did that a lot, and had a high nil rate. So we'll probably never get much below 1% to 2%. But in the case of WSJTX, there's another message that is in there, and from the very beginning in July of 2017, there's a message that adds another confirmation, another QSL to the contact, and many people think that that's required in order to make a valid contact. So just for those of you that may not be familiar, in FT8 or FT4, there are 6 canned fixed messages that are available to you, and they're in order of how the QSO would flow. And both search and pounce and run messages are here. So in this case, this would be if I'm W0YK, and I think I am, this is the messages that would be on my computer. Don, AA5AU, would have exactly the same messages with the call signs reversed in a different order, right? And as the QSO progresses, if I receive, say, TX3, the software is going to send TX4. Well, in the manual mode, I can choose whatever message I want to send, but everybody runs in automatic sequencing mode. I need to clarify, this is not robotic QSOs. This is not QSOs being made robotically. It's the QSO phases within a QSO. So once you initiate a QSO, the QSO steps, the phases of the calls and the exchanges and the QSLs, steps through in a fixed order, and that's done because there's only a couple of seconds at the end of when you see a received message to when you have to decide what you're going to do and what you're going to send. So the automatic sequencer goes through that. So you'll see here the first 2 messages are by the way, this protocol is the everyday protocol for FT8 and FT4, and that's significant because a lot of the people we work in the contest are used to using this. I'll show you the WWDigi messages in a minute. So these first 2 are basically answering messages, right? You see a station that you want to work, and you call them with one of these 2 messages. And then this is sending the QSL and the exchange back. This is the final, what most of us in this room would consider the final QSL. But then there's this problematic, my opinion, problematic message called TX5, which is another 73. If you look at this, it's the 3rd QSL. There's a QSL here, here, and here is a 3rd one. In the classic modes, that we would never send that, or if we heard it, we would just ignore it. It's not something that even is in our thought process. And so I wondered, why is this? Why do we have this distinction? So basically, I'm calling this the superfluous second QSL message. My assumption is that we all agree that there's basically 3 components between you and your QSO partner that need to happen before you can declare a good QSO and log the QSO. You need to exchange call signs, you need to exchange exchanges, and you need to acknowledge that that happened. You need to, I need to tell you, yeah, I got your call and your exchange, we're good to go. You're competitors, but for those few seconds, you got to cooperate like a multi-op, like a team, and make sure you make a good QSO so both of you go away with points. Okay, so here's the WWDigi protocol, and as we would roll down through this, as soon as you get this second QSL message, both exchanges have been made, which is the grid square here, and this second QSL from the other station, the QSO is over. Both stations, if we were in the classic modes, are going to move on to a CQ or calling somebody else or whatever, and so this would never happen. The problem comes is, what if your QSO partner expects you to send a 73 and doesn't log the QSO because he thinks that that's required based on what I showed you previously, that that's the required sequence to make a QSO. And it's like, I haven't thought about this. I haven't, analytically gone down and thought about each of these things. I'm just pushing buttons and rolling through the sequence. And I'm thinking that, gee, I didn't get a 73. He may not have logged it. I don't think that would be a QSO, so I'm not going to log it. But the guy on the other end was a contester. This is foreign language to him. And, of course, he's logged the contact. So basically, that's the problem. So, okay, so in comes the paradox, the gangster's paradox. And that's a result of the fact that in the classic modes, we do it one way, and in this new, since July of 2017, FT mode, it's being done another way. Even though, by the way, if you ask Joe Taylor about this, he says, no, you don't need to do that third QSL, just don't send it. Just stop the sequencer. So this slide and the next slide is a verbal description of the paradox, but I think it's easier to look at a picture. So basically, I stole the graphic from the two generals paradox and corrected it for gangsters. So basically, there's a boss and a gang, and they're separated, and they have to communicate, but they have an unreliable communication link. Well, guess what? That's ham radio. That's contesting, right? And but they need to coordinate what they're doing for whatever the job is that they're going to pull off, right? So the boss sends a message over to the gang about what time they're going to do this job and when they're going to do it and so forth. But it's an unreliable communication, and he sent a messenger, and he doesn't know if a rival gang is going to, wipe out that messenger and the message doesn't get through. Well, that's easy. We'll just send a messenger back. So the gang in the warehouse sends a messenger back. But they're sitting over here, and they don't know if that messenger got through, and they don't know if the boss knows that they know what to do. Oh, well, there's an easy solution to that, and this is the superfluous QSL. We'll send a 73 back. We'll send another message back. Well, okay, but now the boss doesn't know whether that message got through. Okay, well, I probably don't need to go any further. You can see this could go on forever. So basically, the computer scientists proved that with this kind of a link, you cannot have 100% reliable communication. Well, okay, then how did we get by all these years with just one QSL on each side? Well, we came up with a solution. We added more information, and we used things like context and playing the odds, playing statistics, and that's why we don't have a zero call bust rate or a zero nil rate, because life's not perfect and probability is never, it's not ones and zeros. So we play the odds in our favor. What I would say for now, because the FT rates are try as we have to try to get the rates up, they're really still pretty low. And taking the extra time to send that 73 message is inconsequential. It's like it has no impact on your rate or your score or anything else, because there's so much other extrinsic time in the hourly QSO rate. And so unless I'm working somebody that I know is not going to expect that 73, my recommendation is to send the 73, okay? But I don't require a 73 coming back the other way. In reverse, I'm going to go ahead and log the QSO, and on my next transmit cycle, I'm going to call CQ or call another station. The other guy has sent a 73, and he doesn't know that I wasn't paying attention to it because it still got sent. As far as he's concerned, it happened, right? That's the paradox. And for whatever reason, he's happy with 3 QSLs rather than 2 QSLs, and that's fine, so we can go on. So this is what I think we live with for the time being until we can get the rate up to where this problem actually matters. So this is just a list of some of the choices that you have in each of these situations, and some of them matter and some of them don't matter. And if you go through the analysis, I think the conclusion that I showed on the previous slide, it probably makes sense. I have to admit that I dug my heels in, and it took me about 2 years to come around to this because I was really pushing. I felt like it was not in the interest of the long-term development of this particular mode of contesting to give in and send a 73 because I'm just encouraging, you know, reinforcing that behavior. But I think that it really doesn't matter, and it's pretty hard to fight the course, and it's nice to have all of those QSOs in the log. So the takeaways for me are basically 3. One is, which we've already known, but it's a reminder that QSOs are not perfect. That's why these error rates in log checking are not, you know, at 0. Getting a golden log, especially in a big contest like one of the worldwide contests, is not a very good goal because that means you've sacrificed a lot of rate to get a perfect log. And going for a lot of rate and not worrying about the accuracy can hurt you on the other side. So you're seeking a balance, and we've learned how to do that. The good operators have learned how to do that over time. The second thing is that QSO automation can have adverse consequences. It reminds me of pre-filled databases, right? You can say that they're typing aids, but if you forget that that's what they are, they're typing aids, and you got to copy and make sure that what the pre-fill says is what you copied, then all of a sudden they become a problem. And that's exactly what this, what I think is going on with FT8 is that there's blind automation, letting that sequencer go and send the 73, and then having the mental conclusion that there has to be a 73 in order for the QSO to be good. And then finally, that the gangster's paradox, which you could get all you know, literal about and say, gee, you know, I don't know if the QSO was good, and you'd never log anything, that Ham solved that decades ago by adding this extra information of context and looking at sending messages like, gee, he called CQ right after that, so I think he probably got my call okay. So the mode difference, we keep on doing what we're doing in the classic modes, and I think for FT4 and FT8, we send 73 if you think the other station is might have any possibility of requiring it. It's just not going to cost that much. Thank you. Thanks.
You know, as I was sitting here listening to Ed talk about that TX5 message that we don't want people to use, I came up with a brilliant solution, at least I think it's brilliant. Get Joe Taylor to change the default from 73 to please copy. All right. Let's see. This is a mousy thing. Hello. Hello. Come back. Ah, it's over there. Goodbye to you. Goodbye to you. Hello to you. Hello to you. And hello to you. Okay, so this is an unanticipated bonus, a special one. So the people who chose not to come here this afternoon aren't going to see these slides because they're not published anywhere. The Poisson d'Avril contest is my favorite every year. I put it right on the calendar. It's real important to me. happens every year on my birthday, and remarkably, I seem to win it every year. I'm not sure how that works out. I changed the rules this year in 2022. Instead of a way for me to automatically win a contest, I changed it to a way to raise some money to support the efforts of DM9EE, who's doing some great relief work for people of Ukraine, mostly the Hams, and their families. So I announced that we were going to do it a little differently this year. I announced that for a $25 entry fee, you would automatically win a certificate in the standard 4.5 by 4.5 inch size. For a donation of $100 or more, you would get a whole roll of 250 certificates. And I wasn't quite sure if anyone was going to take the bait and do anything. I thought maybe a couple of people would step up. We ended up with over 103 donors, tallying up to $32,020 and 63 cents of PayPal fees and stuff in there. And right after I announced this, and it showed up on CQ Contest, I got a call from K3LR, who was in Germany at the time, and he called me up and said, DG, I want to do a little more. I would like to offer to match the first $10,000 of donations that you get. I said, Tim, you know, I don't think we're going to get anywhere near 10,000, so I think you're safe. You know, a few $100 will probably do it. 2 days later, I had to call him back and say, Tim, open up the checkbook because we got a little something happening here. He was in Germany and he had seen what Karsten was doing and it really moved him. So I'm going to do something that gives me great pleasure. I'm going to embarrass the hell out of Tim. Tim, get up here a minute. As I said, most donors got one sheet of one certificate sheet. It's 2-ply, it's good stuff. And big donors got a whole roll of this stuff. Someone with a camera get up here, this is important. But I figured Tim deserves something a little bit better. So Tim, here's your very own plaque from the 2022 Poisson d'Avril contest, complete with a full roll for you. That's not all that he did, by the way. When he got back to work and everyone said, so Tim, how was Germany? What'd you do while you were over there? He told the people on his staff at DX Engineering and some of the management up the chain at Summit Racing, which owns DX Engineering, that there was a need over there and that he had put up 10 grand. And some of the management there said, oh yeah, hold my beer. And by the time all the dust settled, the people whose call signs have asterisks on them there work for either Summit Racing or DX Engineering, and by the time they were done, they even put in more than the 10,000 that Tim did, and they wouldn't have done it without Tim's encouragement. So one more time for K3LR. Now, when I was getting ready to come out here to Dayton, I went through and made sure everything was cleared out of the Poisson d'Avril headquarters warehouse. And I found that we had one last roll here. So I was trying to figure out what to do with it. So, by the way, if you haven't, I don't know if you got a chance to meet Karsten. He's a shy, retiring guy. He's kind of short and wiry, and you might miss him in the suites. But he's sitting over, stand up. That's the DM9EE over there. And I found out a few days ago that he changed his return flight back to Germany. Instead of leaving from Chicago, he's leaving from Boston. And that's fine. Maybe I'll get another chance to see him while he's in the neighborhood in Boston. But then I found out that he's being driven on that road trip by K9 PG. PG told me a little while ago that his father said, Paul, you're not completely worthless. You actually have one good quality. People can use you as an example of bad behavior. So I thought about that a little bit and said, you know, and I've gotten to know Carson a little bit better too. Between the two of them, I'm sure there's going to be, I know for sure that we want to cover all of Karsten's incidental expenses. And now that he's going to be on the road with PG, chances are they're going to need bail money. So I'm going to now auction off the very last roll of Poisson de Vril contest certificates. And that money is going to go right to Karsten. I don't trust PG with it, but I'm going to give it to Karsten so at least we can bail him out. So who'll start at 25 bucks? 100 bucks right here. Do I hear 100 and a quarter? 125 over here. 150? 150? How about 130? Come on. Or 180? Where was I? Pick a number. I don't care. We're at 125 over here. Who was it? 125? That guy. Any more than 125? Paul? Come on. How much? 130? Okay, 130. 135? 135 in the back. 150 where? Okay, I got 150. Any more? 175 somebody? 175 right there. 200 in the back? Come on, Alan, you got it. Retired lawyer, come on, come on, come on. All done at 200. We got 200. Anybody else? I'm going to quit while I'm ahead. 200 for, I can't remember your call. K0AV. A hand for him, please. Come on up and get it. By the way, the inspiration for that was the year that PG raffled off a PL259 for 100 bucks. Remember, Paul, he gets bailed first. If there's any left over, you know, you're good. If you still want to help, the Poisson de Vril fundraiser was sort of a one-time thing and expired right after April 1st. A few stragglers came in. There are obviously still some real significant needs over in Ukraine. There are people who are really suffering there. We're not taking sides. We're not helping the military. We are helping the people who have gotten in trouble and who need help. We've helped, so far, we've helped move a family across the country when their house was only a couple of 100 meters from where some rocket shells were falling. We just got a long list of medical supplies that one of the doctors asked for in Ukraine through a doctor in Germany. We're going to subsidize that. So the money is actually flowing over there. We've made about 4 contributions, and we'll be doing more. But this is going to go on probably for a while. We hope not for a long while. But if you do want to make a donation, don't send me any money. Karsten has set up a fund on PayPal. If you're on Facebook, you'll be able to find it. I'll try and get the link around sometime on CQ Contest in the next week or so you can see. If you don't want to do it that way, please choose an efficient charity of your choice. The ones that I particularly like and support and would recommend are shown here. No, they're not shown there. Why aren't they shown there? Come on. I hate computers. There we go. The World Food Program, some of you know that Robert, S53R, 9N7AA, ST2AR, T6AA, works for the World Food Program. That's a great one because they're doing great work. And there's a ham radio connection. Doctors Without Borders is another great one, and the World Central Kitchen, run by Chef Jose Andres, is in Ukraine now, and they're serving something like 300,000 meals a day. So if you want to help out over in Ukraine, there you go. And that's the talk that I wedged in the middle of the program today. So let's move on to some more of the good stuff. I said more of the good stuff. There we go. I didn't get a chance to update this. Yes, I did. Okay. I hope Tim is in here someplace. I haven't seen him yet. Where are you? Oh, there they are. Tim and his friend Shorty, N6MJ. So we've seen a couple of examples of guys building contest stations in Maine. Maine's getting way too crowded, trust me. So it makes much more sense to build a contest station as far from Maine as you can get, and Arizona pretty much fits that bill. So Tim Coker, N6WIN, and Dan Craig and 6MJ are going to tell you how they did it. This is your pointer. You have to advance the slides with the up-down button or the stick. Okay? All right.
Well, thank you, Doug. I'm Tim, N6WIN, and got Dan Craig here, N6MJ. Today we'll be presenting building a world-class contest station in Arizona. So you guys may ask, who is ND7K? Well, it's a brand new station in central Arizona built to push the limits of western United States contesting. And pictured are some of the few antennas that we have there on the property. So about me, I'm Tim, N6WIN, licensed in 1989. I had a modest suburb station on 1/8 of an acre in Los Angeles suburb. I didn't initially plan on building a superstation, and I definitely didn't think that we'd have good results, especially from Arizona. And this guy, this is Dan Craig, N6MJ, ZF2MJ. He occasionally wins some contests, but he managed to convince me that, you know, building a retirement QTH, why not go big and build something competitive? He mentioned that people might even travel out to work at the station, but he just said, you know, you're just going to need the following 50 antennas, radios, amplifiers, etc. He does pretty well at spending people's money.
Yeah, I have to say that one of the many talents that I have is spending Tim Coker's money. One issue that we came across, the first WPX contest we did at a station, I was the 20-meter operator in this contest. And as you guys know, 20 meters is extremely difficult. And so he gave me a AL1200 amplifier to use on 20 meters, which is a great amplifier, no harm to AL1200 fans. But the problem that I had was I was only getting 1,450 watts out of this amplifier. And to me, it wasn't quite enough. I needed 1,500 watts. And I literally had this conversation with Tim, I'm not kidding, after the contest. I said, Tim, I wasn't satisfied with this. What are we going to do to get up to 1,500 watts on 20 meters? And I thought he wouldn't really do anything about it, but guess what? Next time I showed up at the station, brand new amplifier on 20, we're now full legal limit, 1,500 watts. So anyway, that's my job at the station.
So Dan does a great job in the way that he makes sure to push. Building out in Arizona, obviously not the most competitive QTH, but with the pushing and encouragement from Dan, hopefully we're on the path to doing something well. So we're going to talk about the goal and station design, implementation, and antenna system design and optimization. And we'll talk about why we built in Arizona versus Maine, along with what's planned. So the goal set out was to be able to win in domestic contests, to be able to be competitive in DX contests for our region only, and to have fun exploring propagation from the Southwest. Probably with the biggest thing, to be able to have fun with friends. So site layout and planning. One of the things that I wanted to make sure that I did well was, since I was buying raw land that needed to be cleared, I wanted to start at the planning phase with the civil engineer and talk about where the towers could go, where the guy wires would be, and think about, you know, where I'd put the QTH, the house and the shack at the QTH. So I was able to pick up 5 acres on one parcel and an immediate adjacent parcel of another 5 acres. And shown is just one of the printouts from the CAD file that I had my civil engineer do, so that we could know just where we might put things, with thoughts about certain antennas pointing towards major population areas and not interfering with things like the shack and other antennas that might be pointed at other areas. When we got to to Arizona, we found out that the azimuth areas were pretty much the same as operating in Southern California that Dad and I are used to. So we had that in mind while placing antenna placements, especially for the lower fixed antennas. But since then, we asked our buddy Scott, K7ZO, to help us with figuring out, are we placing the energy of the antennas in the right areas for a given contest? And what he does is he'll actually extrapolate log data and show us who we worked in a contest, who we missed that was active, and where other active contesters may be in the future. And he does a great job of that, and it really allows us to plan well about what we'll do in the future. So construction of the QTH. Top left photo here shows a few of the boxes that might show up from DX Engineering when you're starting from scratch. I remember that being one of the shipments that came in, and my UPS driver got used to knowing whether I was at my father-in-law's QTH to receive these boxes or should she deliver them to the site. The bottom right picture shows that when I had the raw land and I didn't have anything there yet, I wanted to know, what do I have to clear out? What kind of fire breaks do I need, especially in our area? And so shown is the rebar with the yellow flag. That was placed based on using an external GPS hooked up to my iPhone and using Google Maps imagery. And then putting that down on the ground, I found that after hiring the civil engineer to come out with his professional topography crew to shoot the site, we were just mere inches off. So it felt pretty good that I could recommend, an external GPS receiver might be good for those who may not be in the position of hiring a professional crew to come out and shoot their locations. At ND7K, we hire Hector XE2K as our sole antenna installer. Pictured is Hector putting up a K3LR full-size 40-meter OWA. Many of the antennas at ND7K are what I like to call snowbird antennas. They're done freezing in the Pennsylvania weather, and they're enjoying the nice sunny skies of Arizona now. So our transmit antennas. On 160 meters, we have a full-size quarter-wave vertical with 32 radials. And on 80 meters, we employ dipoles. With the monsoon season in Arizona, one of my biggest fears was having to hire a crane that would have to come up from the valley. Like Ray said, somewhere between $300 and $500, plus the travel time, support vehicles, etc., needed for those heights and the terrain that they would have to come out on. And having to fix relays, etc., that might be away from the mast. And so my favorite antenna on 80 meters is a rotating JK801T. It's a shortened dipole at 145 feet with a tornado tuner right at the mast. So on 40 meters, we have 12 elements now. There's an EU 4/4 OWA stack and a JA4 element. And I think Dan has an anecdote to share with what the lower 40-meter antenna has added, is we weren't sure if it would add much at 70 feet.
Yeah, because originally we just had the 4-element OWA at 130 feet, and it's a great antenna by itself. And we had some success working Europe on 40 meters, and so we weren't really sure what that 70-foot antenna would do for us. But one data point that we do have is in 2021, we did a WPX phone from Arizona, and on 40 meters in that contest, as a multi-multi, we had about 50 European cues on 40. And that's not bad from Arizona. We're pretty happy with that. And then the following year, which was this year, we did another multi-op in WPX, and this time we did multi-2, and we had a lot less overall cues on 40 meters because of that. But our European cues jumped a lot. So we went from 50 the year before, and now with the new stack that was put up in between the two contests, now we went with over 100 cues into Europe on 40 meters. So it's nice to see all the hard work pay off. And, as we were saying before, I'm really good at spending Tim's money. And we have one additional issue that I wanted to bring up today, Tim. I don't want to put you on the spot or anything, okay? But I feel a little weak on 40 meters into JA. So that top 4-element OWA at 130 feet will rotate, so I can use that to JA. But in the most recent contest, I can tell you that I was trying to run guys on 40 meters phone, and there's just too much QRM. I really think that one more 4-element 40-meter OWA fix that JA would be a great idea. What do you think about that?
Well, I think what I'll do is I'll send Dan a Venmo request after talking to Hector and talking to somebody else about putting that antenna up. We do have a spot at 70 feet for another 4-element going to JA, and that is on the initial plans. So on 20 meters, we have 39 elements on that band at our QTH. There's a stack to Europe, another stack to Japan, a smaller stack for North America, and we just added a South America antenna, a little tri-bander made by DXE, the Skyhawk, the updated version. And so we just added that to 120 feet. And as much as we have in the air to all the other areas, one of the things that really stuck out to Dan when he was thinking about this was that late edition of the tri-bander. I'll let him talk about that because it really wasn't something that was planned, but he found that there was a need for it during both our single ops and our multis.
Yeah, so that antenna actually came from my house, and I don't do a lot of contesting from home anymore, and it was kind of access to my needs. So we just trying to figure out what are we going to do with this thing. And so I was able to give it to Tim, and we put that up at 120 feet. And it's been actually quite beneficial for us. We're big believers in splitting direction. And again, this antenna went up between the last two WPX contests. So this most recent one, that antenna was up in the air for the first time. And we were able to keep that in as one of the antenna options all the time, and on 10, 15, and 20. And that definitely increased the score quite a bit with the amount of cues we were able to get from South America with having an actual antenna in that direction. So even though it's the smallest antenna up there, it's super important for our scores overall.
Well, on 15 meters, we're able to put up 48 elements. And so we have a OWA stack, a 3-high stack to Europe, 1 to JA. We have a 4/4 to North America, a 4-element portion of that, DXE tribander going to South America, and a rotating 5-element that's on the same tower as the European stack. And one of the things that's been very interesting to find out and answer the question to, and that is, having so many antennas, even with them placed per like VJ Ed's book, not placing them to look into each other as they're going off into their designated areas. But do you have problems when you have so many antennas in such a small area? And the answer is yes, there is one problem that's been identified. Via using the RHR, we're able to listen to ourselves or transmit to ourselves from another station. And so what we were determining is that sometimes on 15 meters towards the east, northeast, we would have degradation of signals at times. And we really couldn't figure it out. But then the question became, are we running too many antennas in that direction? And so testing through the RHR, we were able to find that if we ran the rotating 5L on the same tower as that lower European 7/7/7 stack, that all of a sudden a signal that was coming to us that may be 5.9 in strength went down to below 5.1. We were also able to determine by RXing into a further away RHR station that our transmitted signal with that combination together in line went from like a 5.9 plus to low 5s. And so we found that for whatever reason, that top antenna will cancel out the lower OWA stack and vice versa. So we have to teach our operators never to run that combination together, but each antenna has its own purpose, and so it is up there. It does not give us trouble when it's not given power, but when we do give it power through a stack match, we find a huge signal degradation to that area. So on 10 meters, we only have 67 elements. Hopefully the band opens well soon, right? There's a lot of hardware up there for that band. We have an 8-element OWA, a 4-high stack that's going to Europe primarily. It's JA stack, a North American stack, again, that South American tribander, and a rotating 6L. And Dan, you had a pretty good experience on 10 meters, I think during WPX. Why don't you talk about that?
Yeah. So coming back to WPX again, if you can't tell, it's one of our favorite contests on the West Coast, but anyway. So this last WPX, we actually had 10 meters open this time, which was a nice change from previous years. And it was one of those times where in the middle of the day, the band was open to the entire world pretty much. You had South America, you had Europe, you had JA coming in. And so I'm calling CQ, getting answers from all these different directions. And I was looking, which antennas am I using right now? And I could see that I'm actually pointing in 5 different directions right now. I got 160 degrees for South America, 100 degrees for Florida and Caribbean. I'm using the European stack, and that covers W1, and then also over to Europe, so that's 4 directions. I got the JA stack going, so now I'm at 5 directions. And I had an interesting problem. I've got 5 directions going, but it wasn't quite enough because now all of a sudden, at the same time, I have VKs calling me off of the other side. And so the problem we had was we have all these antennas, but it wasn't enough because I wanted one more so I can go 6 directions and make sure we get everybody that's calling us. Anyway, so that's one of the crazy things that we've been finding from Arizona is all the different propagation. And like I said before, we're very into the whole split direction thing. I think W3LPL would not be very happy with that statement, but we have found for us that it really works quite well.
Yeah, and Dan first started showing me that down at Whiskey 6 Yankee India back in 2012 era, and folks kind of thought that he was a bit off for what he was doing during some of the contests. However, if anybody knows Dan and 6MJ's track record of success, that was a question of futility. So here's a satellite image of the QTH. I have 5 acres to put all of these transmit antennas onto. I don't have a lot of acreage. The transmit antennas are on the western parcel, and the eastern parcel shown, so in other words, to the right of the slide, is where the beverage antennas go and all the RX antennas. My best friend owns that property, and thankfully he's very kind to let us use that for RX antennas. On the receive side, we employ 580-foot length beverages to Europe, JA, and an east-west bev, and we've just added RX verticals for 20, 15, and 10 meters. Not shown on the slide is in the bottom right, or the southeast portion of the property, are the RX verticals, and they are located at a minimum of 600 feet east of the transmit towers. So the shack. Pictured is Dan operating with our friend W4IX. They're doing an in-band combination on 20 meters by the look of the GHE screen there. They're using a paired set of ICOM 7610s that are interlocked, and they do audio sharing. Throughout the shack, you'll find desks like this with 7610s and alpha auto-tune amplifiers. The equipment shed. This is located 100 feet south of the shack. It's located underneath the towers, and it's where basically I get to hide all the wires that are included in our wireless hobby. Shown are a number of high-power bandpass filters from VA6AM, some of the remote equipment necessary that comes from Green Heron Engineering, and all coax that comes in from the antennas all go to the equipment shed, and from there we have some home runs of hardline going up to the shack. I was worried about lightning, and so I didn't want a lot of control cables coming to the shack with lightning in mind, hence all of the GH Everywhere equipment, eliminating that necessity. We use a mother of all switch that Paul K1XM developed, and a custom RX matrix that was made by K9AY. It has bandpass filters for 40, 80, and 160 in it, and it gives us the ability of selecting any RX antenna from any operating position. And because those RX antennas are so close to the transmit antennas, a good insurance that we use is DX Engineering RX guards to protect our radios. We use the GH Everywhere, as I mentioned. It gives us a per band menu selection of transmit antennas. It gives us the ability to select those antennas at any operating position, and as many as you know, it'll give us the ability to use the station or select antennas remotely. With so many antennas, it can be very intimidating to new operators. Shown on the screen is a 20-meter selection. And Dan, you've operated at my station a lot. Can you comment on how difficult it can be to make sure that you're on the right antenna combination with all those elements up in the air?
Yeah, I've been to all the big stations across the country, and they each have their own complexity. For some reason at Tim's station, there's so many antennas available. I've operated there at least a dozen times now, and still to this day, whenever I go to the station, I have to relearn everything again, because not only is it complicated, but every time I come back, he takes my advice and adds more antennas. And so I got to figure out, okay, what did he name this thing now? You know, because his naming convention needs a little bit of work. We've been talking about that for a while. Haven't quite figured out what the right answer is yet, but it's really hard to learn. Even for myself, I've been there a lot of times. And you know, when we have guest operators come in, it's a similar issue. But that's one of the things that when we're doing a multi-op, we have some of the more senior operators that have been there before, kind of watching over the antenna selection of the new guys, because it's very easy not to be pointing in the correct direction if you don't have the right button clicked. So it's very complex. It's still hard, but in the end, it gets the job done.
Yeah, so one of the things we will be working on is renaming conventions and simplification of that. So how does the station work? Now, on CQ Worldwide Sideband 2020, as a multi-2, we were able to finish #1 in North America. In WPX sideband 21, as a multi-multi, we were able to take first place North America, setting a new W7 record. And in the same year, in WPX CW, multi-multi, we again were able to take first place North America, setting a new Zone 3 record. And we were able to post the most cues ever worked from W7, W6 in that contest in multi-multi. In IRU 2021, Dan came over and operated single op, CW only, high power. He was able to take first place, setting a new Zone 6 record. He was SO3R, doing his 2B SIQ bit, using visual aids, and using the 7610 output to pans. Shown in this picture is a prime example of what Dan will do when he's over at the station single op. I'd like him to talk a little bit about that. And I'm pretty sure from this slide, what I can remember from this is that he asked me to set up N1MM for the first time at our station. We do use DX log. And what he wanted to test was some of the visual outputs from those pans to see if it would help him for the upcoming CQ Worldwides in being able to find signals, without being assisted of course, via that output and get to them quickly, more quickly than tuning the knob. Dan, will you comment on what's happening here and how that worked out?
Yeah, and I've been contesting for a very long time, but I'm still learning new things all the time as well. And one of our other big-time contesters these days is Axel, KI6RRN, and one of the big things that he does is he's able to do the 3 radios at a time, and he's figured out a way within N1MM to use a click on the keyboard to jump between frequencies, and that saves him some time with tuning. And so I think that it's something that I don't have the skill to do, so I wanted to learn it. So that's what we were doing here. So basically I got the 3 radios set up. So I have 2 run radios. So I have the left radio and the right radio would be my 2 run bands. And then the third radio I have set up so I can call guys on a third band. So let's say if I'm running on 15 and 20, I'd have that third radio on 10 or 40. And at that point, I'd be able to tune around, call guys. And I think that's all I'm going to say about this slide. We're running a little bit out of time. You want to go to the next slide real quick? Yeah.
Okay. So why Arizona versus Maine was a question that Doug wanted us to present. And for me, it was pretty easy. It was going to be a retirement QTH. We're talking good ability to get to medical, family, and friends from there. And great weather for enjoyment of the pools and the outside nature. And I wanted an underdog challenge because I didn't think that we could actually win much of anything from there. But Dan was always on me about, if you think that way, obviously you won't. But if you do the right stuff, maybe we'll have a good shot at it. And so, Dan, you wanted to comment on your background on that and why you challenged me so much to build in Arizona.
Yeah, and we're going to finish up after this. So I don't know, if you guys take anything out of this presentation, hopefully it's this part right here. So people always ask, why am I contesting from California or from Arizona? Why would I do that when I can easily fly to the East Coast and operate from there? There's a couple different reasons. You don't always have to actually win the contest to have fun. So for us, we challenge ourselves either with local stations, people in our same region. If we're able to beat them, we're happy with that. And one thing I have to keep reminding Tim, because we've had a lot of success already on the nationwide level, and we've won quite a few contests. And every time we go in, he tells me, oh man, I really hope we win for the whole country this time. And I have to remind him, like, hey, it's great if we do, but if that's always our goal, we're just going to be disappointed, because if somebody from the East Coast shows up in our category, they are going to beat us, and that's okay. I don't have to win. I just want to, make sure that it's a fun experience. And I think that's where a lot of people kind of forget what we're doing. So.
All right, so yeah, it's definitely an underdog experience, and we do, as much as that's being said, we do definitely get there and work hard, and sometimes the results will definitely pay off. We're out of time here. Doug, thank you for letting us speak. Everybody, thank you very much. Hopefully we'll see many of you over pizza and beer tonight at the contest suite.
Great job, guys.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks a lot. You the man. Come back, pointer. There you are. Goodbye to you. Goodbye to you. And Hello to you. Okay. Well, one of the big events that we were, before I get into the introduction, I'm told that there's a severe hailstorm alert for this area, and there is a chance, I don't know if it's a good chance, but someone may come running in that door saying, get out of the building. So if we have to evacuate the building, we'll have to evacuate the building, and you'll have to follow up with these guys tonight in the suites. Anyway, one of the big events in radio sport is the World Radiosport Team Championship. The next event was scheduled to be held this summer in Italy, but in the course of planning that and getting everything together, a pandemic hit, and that kind of hit the guys, so they postponed to July of 2023. So we have here from Italy, where are you? You're still here, aren't you? There you are. Okay, hiding in the middle. Claudio, I4WEQ, and Fabio, I4UFH, to catch us up on the planning for WRTC 2022. You can do like that, or like that, and this is just the mic.
Good afternoon. I'm Claudio, I4VEQ, with Fabio, I4UFH. Fabio is the Vice President of the Organizing Committee for the WRTC 2022. And okay, we were here in 2019, and in these 3 years, many things have happened. So the we first of all, we review all our projects for the WRTC, and we were forced to move it from the 2022 to the 2023. That's why, you know, in Italy in 2020 we were forced to stay at home for many months, and of course we have many people died during that period. So we at the beginning of the 2021 we start thinking to move the event from the 2022 to the 2023. So in 2023, all the best contestants in the world from every corner of the world will gather in Bologna, and they will play on the same field, the same field, just to see who is the best contestant in the world. So we have to put up 65 stations for all these team leader and these competitors, with the same antenna, the same tower, and same power, of course. All these stations will be located near Bologna. So probably most of you already know what is the WRTC is. Of course, is a competition between the best contestant in the world, but WRTC is not only competition, is an occasion for all the contestants in the world to stay together, and is a meeting point. There are no other occasion to see all together all the best contestants in the world. Everybody will be able to join the event. We will prepare some tours, excursion all around Bologna. And the organizing committee has the headquarters in the Guglielmo Marconi house near Bologna, so you can visit the Villa Grifone, and where Guglielmo Marconi made his very first radio transmission. And you can see the room exactly where the first transmission was made by Marconi, and see his equipment. Bologna is in the northern part of Italy and is an historical site, and we expected to have there more than 700 people with 180 AMs that will compete in this competition. Bologna was also an international airport, so it's easy to reach from all over the world. It is connected with daily flight with almost all European capital. So here is Bologna, is located there between just in the middle between Venice and Florence. You can reach Venice in 1 hour driving from Bologna. So Bologna is a medieval downtown, and is famous all over the world for its food. So you can enjoy wine, Parmigiano, and pasta, and balsamic vinegar, and all these things. Of course, for radio, because there is the house of Guglielmo Marconi, and there are also, we are very close to many of the famous fast cars factory, like Ferrari, Lamborghini. They have very nice museums and to visit. So let's speak a little bit more. A lot of things has happened in these 3 years, and fortunately we are able now to announce that the hardware for the site and the station is almost ready, and we have all the antenna donated by Crassi, K1 Lima Zulu, that donated us 70 antennas with the LZA 737 antenna. Is a 2-element for 20, 2-element for 15 meters, and 3-element on 10 meters. So also with the balloon and one single cable feeding. So we tested it in Sicily this summer, last summer, sorry, and the antenna seems a very, very good antenna. And we all the 70 antenna have arrived in Bologna last summer. Here it is, the test and the antenna in Sicily. Okay, we are looking for the site, and we are on the right way. Bologna is located in a complete plain. We have the greatest plain of Italy that is very large, and all the site will be located, the competitor site will be located here in this plain that is called Pianura Padana, near Bologna, between Bologna, Modena, Ferrara, and Ravenna. Okay, we are, after many discussion about this, where located the sites, we are now looking for an agreement with like a bed and breakfast in a farm. That's we call it agriturismi. It's like a farmhouse. So competitors will have during the competition, they will have a room, a bathroom, and Wi-Fi, and and in the field, in the country, most of these places have, of this site, have a very large place around to put up the antenna. Maybe not all the site will be exactly equal. That's why there is houses, there are trees around, but we will do our better to select the most similar site for the competition. But anyway, this is, I think, is a good solution also for the competitors. This also is an advantage for us because we can put up all the station, all the antenna, starting in advance of 1 or 2 months before the competition. So we can test the antenna, and we will be sure that all is ready for the contest. This is another advantage, and we need less volunteers for that. Okay, we selected now around 130 of this site, all located in the Pianura Padana. The red are in near Bologna, the gray are in Modena, the blue are in Ferrara, and the green are in Ravenna provinces. And this is the 130 selected site for now. Of course, we will do a visit to all these sites and select around 80 sites for the competition. And we are now looking for an agreement with the three associations of this agriturismi to have a unique contract with them. So we can present a package to the competitors with that include all the accommodation, meal, ceremony, cost, open ceremony and closed ceremony, of course, but a unique price for all, and you don't need to, all competitors don't need to search for a hotel or restaurant or so on. Okay, we have decided that the competition will be a multi-two, like in Germany, exactly the same style of operation, multi-two. Identical 100 watt station located in similar site, and there will be also 5 sponsored team. We still have two places for sponsored team available. There are only 3 sponsored team for now. So about the station setup, the tribander antenna is donated from are donated by Cressy, and we will add an inverted V dipole with an inverted V. Sorry, we will add an inverted V dipole for 40 and one for 80 meters. Coaxial cable will be donated by Messi and Paoloni, the Italian manufacturer of coaxial cable. And mast, homemade steel sliding tower with a winch, and they are all made in Sicily by a factory there. And rotors, we are still looking for rotors. Anyway, if we cannot make an arrangement, we will buy some Yaesu rotators. That's why Yaesu decided this year that they will not supply the rotors. So a mechanical need and a mast for the system will be provided by Momo Beam and Mastrand, of course. So WRTC is open to youth. We have selected at the moment 6 youth team, and we receive some application from youth. The selected team are R6 KVA, Yankee Lima 3, Juliet Alpha, Mike 0, Sugar Delta Victor, Delta Bravo 5, Delta Yankee, and YU5 Echo Echo Alpha, and W4 IPC from the United States. And also we We will have 5 wild card teams. And there are 2 sites available for sponsors team. Okay, there was a qualification programs. Probably you know all about this. The first station qualified from the United States is KI6 Radio November Axel, and then K7RL and many other. The qualification process was in 2019 and 2020, and with 12 contests considered for this qualification. Okay, and we also have all the 50 team leaders selected in the 50 WRTC areas and their application. So we have all the teams ready for the WRTC 2023. These are the American teams, from NA1 to NA10. More than 10 teams, I don't remember, maybe 13 with K5ZD and N1C, K3PA. So a lot of well-known contesters, I think. And they have already selected their teammates. And also we have all the application from Europe with 2 Italian teams, IZA Juliet Alpha India and IK1 Lima Bravo Golf from Italy. Also there will be 1 British team, GD4 XUM, and 2 German team, and some Russian team with also Braco Echo 770X is of course a team leader. This is the African and Asia Caribbean teams with a team from China and a team for Israel, a couple of teams from Africa, 3 teams from Africa, 8RM, 9G5SA. We were not able to contact her, so it denied to apply for the WRTC 2023. So he will be substituted by 5 Tango 5 Papa Alpha that accept to be a competitors in the WRTC. And then ZR2A or with DL9 Echo from Germany. Also, we will have Alberto via Victor Radio 2 X-Ray Alpha November and 2 Japanese team from Japan. Also, Champ Echo 21 Echo India Charlie will be a team leader. This is the Oceania and Latin America with Sati 996 November Alpha and Kent Kilo Hotel 6 Charlie Julia. They will be a team leaders. There are 3 CW and of course John W2GD will be there from South America 1. And C2LR Matthias, well-known young contester, with C3CT Roberto. So we have also the judging committee ready. They all accept to be part of the judging committee. They are, of course, all well-known contestants. I think there is they don't need a presentation, of course. The president will be W608T, Rusty, and N60R, PY5 Echo Golf, ARMS, UA9 Mike Alpha, Gina, and S50A, Tine, and of course Fabio representing the organizing committee. This is the judging judging committee. So, at this time we have the defending champions, Lima Yankee 9 Alpha and Lima Yankee 4 Lima, that they won the WRTC in 2018. And we have 6 youth team, and for now we have only 3 sponsored team, and we have to decide to be defined the wild card team. So, of course, the object of this presentation is to stimulate everybody to participate in the WRTC 2022. You can, of course, the competitors are defined. We will open the referee application form at the end of this month. So if you want to be a referee in the WRTC 2023, please send us your application at the end of the month. Consider a donation to this project. We need to put up all this stuff, and of course we need your support. We need the support of all